What's up, everybody? Thanks as always for supporting the show. It would mean a lot to me if you would take a second to scroll down and hit that subscribe button to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel, and then follow me on social media on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter so you guys don't miss any of our content over the course of this season. All right, let's talk some basketball. So the Bucks are off to a 2-2 start. Couple of pretty embarrassing losses. They got absolutely crushed at home from the opening tip by the Hawks, and then they got absolutely crushed from the opening tip on the road to a Raptors team that in their other 5 games is 1-4 and really has struggled to score the basketball, yet had no problem scoring against the Bucks. Now again, like you guys might remember from before the season, I predicted that the Bucks would struggle during the regular season. They are just going to have to take on an entirely different identity than what they've had in years past. They're not as deep, and they're particularly weak at the point of attack. So a lot of the elements of the Dame trade are more about the bigger picture, what they're going to look like when we get to April and May, right? And I would say that it's looked a little worse than I've expected, but it is kind of the same type of issues that I'm expecting. The offense looks clunky. Dame and Giannis don't really seem to know how to play with each other yet. And on the defensive end, they're just terrible, which we're going to dig into here in a minute. And like a lot of it's fixable. What did I say about the Lakers when they got off to their bad start? What did I say about the Timberwolves when they got off to their bad start? Like sometimes basketball teams just play bad basketball. And the truth of the matter is it literally happens all the time throughout the season. But for whatever reason, we always overreact to it at the start of the season, right? Like, how often does a team, like, for instance, the Los Angeles Lakers in the year 2020 when they won the title, they once lost 4 games in a row. Like, it was started with that Christmas Day game against the Clippers, and then they lost like 4 games after that. Or that might have been one of the middle games in that stretch. But they lost 4 games in a row. Had they started the season 0-4, everyone would have been like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with the Los Angeles Lakers, right? Like, but because it happened in the middle of the season, we're just like, oh, they just started playing like shit for a week. Like, because that's what happened, right? Well, guess what? If you start a season in the middle of October, or October 24th or whatever, there's 30 teams. There's going to be some that come out the gates playing good basketball, and there's going to be some that come out the gates playing bad basketball. And this is a Bucks team that came out the gates playing bad basketball. And we're going to dive into it because there are some things that are real personnel limitations that they're going to have to address over the course of the season. And then there are other things that are like, hey, just do a better job. Like, you got to do a better job. And as that stuff happens and they play better in those specific roles, like they'll defend a little better, right? And when they defend a little bit better, they'll get more transition opportunities. They'll have more confidence on the offensive end of the floor. It's kind of like a snowball effect. And you can see pretty quickly how it turns things around for a team. And it can happen pretty quick. I mean, the Lakers played like absolute dog shit for the first 4 games of the season. And then the second 4.5 games, and then they came out second half against the Clippers, and some stuff clicked into place, and suddenly they looked a lot better. And that's what I expect to happen with the Bucks in the big picture. But I want to dig into the tape for a little bit. So first of all, when I'm going over this, I have 2 threads on my Twitter feed. And again, my Twitter feed is @_JasonLT. One of them is on the offensive end of the floor. One of them is on the defensive end of the floor. Defense is more comprehensive, but I pulled clips from both. What I want to do here is I want to just go all in on the defense and talk about everything that I noticed that went wrong. You're going to want to look through that thread because there's a lot of really good visual representations of the things that I'm talking about. But this is the best way that we can find out why and how the Bucks defense has been as bad as it has been. Now, how bad has it been? They are 29th in defensive rating, 24th in half-court defense, according to Cleaning the Glass. They are the worst transition defense in the NBA by a mile. They are giving up a transition play on 22% of their defensive possessions, which is dead last in the league, and they're giving up 1.62 points per transition play, which is dead last in the league. On tape, you could see it, and I pulled several clips of this that you'll see in that thread, but like generally speaking, just guys not running back, Dame in particular not picking up the ball in transition. That was a big problem with him with Dennis Schroeder, who's good at pushing the pace. When they get back in transition, a lot of guys are like running back to the paint and then just staying there instead of spraying out. Transition defense has a very basic principle. You run to the paint first and then you find a man, right? That's what you do. And generally speaking, you stay in the paint until your rim protector gets there, then you fan out, right? Like when Brook Lopez gets back in the paint, then you go find your shooter. There was a play where Marjan Beauchamp and Jay Crowder both were just, or Bobby Portis, I think it was, were both like standing in the paint in transition After they sprinted back, everyone's in the paint. There's like 4 Bucks bodies in the paint, and they both just immediately start staring at the basketball and stand and watch as the ball just gets swung to the top of the key to a wide open shooter for 3. Like, that's just bad transition defense. There were transition plays where guys got beat from behind, meaning like literally no one protected the rim, and a guy just ran the right lane. The ball got dropped off to Scotty Barnes for an easy layup underneath the basket. Like, in general, they're just not doing a good job. And like, when it comes to transition defense, you're always at a disadvantage. You're not expecting to lock teams up in transition, but you have to limit frequency and limit the efficiency in those situations by just doing a better job. Sprint back to the rim, talk, get matched up. It's really that simple. And like, they're just not doing a good enough job. Like, one of the things that fans do a lot, and trust me, I see this with like when I used to cover the Lakers, I saw it with Laker fans nonstop. Like, it was Frank Vogel's the worst coach in the world. Oh, Darvin Ham's the worst coach in the world. I've been hearing this shit for years. It's what everybody does, right? You blame the coach. Now, is Adrian Griffin done a perfect job? No, absolutely not. There's a lot of different things that we'll talk about today that I think schematically they need to do differently. However, before we put all of the blame on Adrian Griffin, the players are also not doing their jobs. In order for a scheme to be properly evaluated, it has to be executed properly. I could have the smartest defensive scheme in the world for a specific roster, but if the guys don't do their jobs, the scheme will fall apart. And so at the end of the day, it's complicated. All these things are complicated. How does a team with Giannis and Brook Lopez, the best defensive front line, one of the best defensive front lines in the league, anchor the 29th ranked defense? A lot of things have to go wrong. Brook's not doing as good of a job as he usually does. Giannis isn't doing as good of a job as he usually does. Point of attack defense is an issue. Backside rebounding, help. We're going to talk about all of it, but it's a lot of stuff that goes wrong. There are different schematic things they need to do differently. But again, like, you could fire Adrian Griffin tomorrow, but if they don't buy into whatever the next coach is doing and actually execute whatever his scheme is, it's going to fail anyway. And so again, like, a lot of times it's easy to just point a finger at the coach. But like, the players are out there playing the games and they got to do their job as well. NBA fans, the wait is over. Basketball is back, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, is celebrating with an unbeatable offer. New customers can score $200 instantly in bonus bets for throwing down $5 on the NBA. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. You'll start the season with an instant dub. And with DraftKings parlays, everyone's got a shot at an even bigger basketball win. String together multiple bets from the same game or build your parlay across multiple games for a shot at making your payday even sweeter. Basketball's more fun when you're in on the action. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. New customers can get $200 in bonus bets instantly for betting just $5. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code HOOPS. The crown is yours.
Don't miss the action this weekend when the NFL heads to Germany for the Frankfurt games. These games will air on the NFL Network. I'll be watching, and stream on NFL Plus. Again, streaming on NFL Plus. For a limited time, Verizon customers can get Netflix Plus, NFL Plus for just $25 a month with Plus Play. That's $120 in annual savings. Plus Play is a platform where Verizon customers can shop, manage, and save on the subscriptions you already have, like NFL Plus. With NFL Plus Premium, you get access to games on mobile, NFL Red Zone, NFL Network, which means you can catch the Frankfurt games and more. Just go to Verizon.com/NFL. Save before the games. $120 you can save annually. Hurry, this offer ends soon.
In the half court, and again, 24th in half court defense, you can't blame it all on the transition defense. It's a failure of execution at every level. Damian Lillard, Malik Beasley, and Pat Connaughton, all three of those guys are really, really struggling, and they're getting picked on every single time. They are dying on screens. They're switching screens that they shouldn't switch, which is getting them into mismatches. Then when the Bucks try to scram them out of mismatches, those guards aren't rotating. There's a play that you'll see on that thread that I put out there where Damian Lillard switches aside pick and roll. Probably shouldn't have switched it to begin with, right? Then he ends up in a post mismatch that Giannis scrams him out of. But when Giannis scrams him out of the mismatch, now what does that mean to scram somebody out of a mismatch? So like there's side ball screen, Dame switches it, now he's on a big wing, right? In that position, what you're trying to do is before they make the post entry, in that gap when the post player is asking for the ball and when they make the post entry, you're trying to basically pre-rotate out of it. So you want Giannis in this case to sprint over and go to Dame's man as Dame is running out to the shooter, basically allowing you, it's kind of like a wheel, and you quickly rotate out of it, and then now all of a sudden the mismatch isn't there and Giannis is in the post. Well, on this play, Giannis goes to scram Dame out of the switch, and Dame just kind of like floats around in the middle of the floor and ends up giving up a wide open three in the process. Like, that's just bad defense. That's just a guy not doing his job in the scheme. Probably shouldn't have switched that screen. That should be all side ball screens. You want to ice, right? Because especially against a team like the Raptors that aren't good pull-up shooters, if you ice the screen, that means as the guy comes to set the ball screen on the wing, as the ball handler is trying to come off, you deny him the screen. You jump high side and force him to go back towards the baseline, and then whoever your guy who's guarding the screener sits back in that spot. Nobody really on the Raptors in the Raptors forwards is a good enough shooter to justify like panic chasing him around. You offer a late closeout. That's what you do. So like if he drives to the baseline and throws a pocket pass to the elbow, you offer a late closeout. If the ball handler goes towards the baseline and takes a pull-up jump shot, you offer a late closeout. If it's Dennis Schroeder, you live with that shot, right? But like, so that's an example for Adrian Griffin where it's a schematic thing, right? Like, probably shouldn't just be switching a side pick and roll and putting Dame or Malik onto a big forward, right? But at the same time, like, I'm not even 100% sure if that is the scheme. It could very well be that Dame just died on the screen and said switch. And that's why, like, we don't know what's actually going on. Now, that it does inevitably in the big picture come back on coaching, because this is game 4, right? If it's still happening in game 12 and the scheme is you're supposed to ice it, but they're switching it instead, then that's an accountability issue. And now it falls back on the coach for the coach not actually making sure that the players are aware that they're expected to do their jobs and that that there's some sort of fallout from that. Not that you're going to remove Dame from the game, but you got to somehow get in his ear and get him to do his job if that's the case. But we don't know. It could also just be Adrian Griffin calling for a switch there. So like, that sort of thing is an example of a schematic approach that they need to change. But that concept of the guards being incapable of navigating screens is a problem. There was a play where Malik Beasley in a ball screen with Jakob Poeltl and Dennis Schroeder saw the ball screen coming, did a nice job sidling over the top of the screen. Actually did a good job on this possession. Chested up Dennis Schroeder and cut him off. But then Dennis Schroeder literally just hit him with a slight hesitation move, and Malik froze, and Dennis went right by him downhill. And then on the play, Brook Lopez, who's guarding a non-shooter in Jakob Poeltl, was way too high at the level of the screen behind the play. And then when he tried to get back into the play to block Dennis Schroeder at the rim, he had to like sell out for it. And it was an easy drop off for Jakob Poeltl for a dunk going down the lane. And again, like execution, you got to get a better job at the point of attack from Malik Beasley there. Schematics, what is Brook Lopez doing? Why is he not in a deeper drop? Jakob Poeltl's not going to hurt you in that situation. I saw like there was I think Brook thought that Malik cut him off and figured it was going to flow into a dribble handoff with Gary Trent Jr. coming out of the corner, in which case Gary Trent Jr. is a good pull-up shooter and he might have to show high. But even then, you sit back in the drop, further back, to help on the Dennis Schroeder drive. Then if he gets rid of the basketball, then you sprint back up to the level of the screen. That's that yo-yo we always talk about. You got to go back to the rim for help, up to the level of the screen when the coverage dictates it. Back to the rim for help, up to the level of the screen when the coverage dictates it. So like in general, like I that to me is Brook Lopez either being in the wrong spot schematically or blowing the coverage. How do we know that Adrian Griffin hasn't told him, hey, on Dennis Schroeder ball screens, sit in a deeper drop? Like, we don't know. And so again, like that's where it's hard to really identify who the culprit is. The execution is poor, but at the same time, we don't know if that's actually what the scheme is calling for. But in general, against a team that is not a good pull-up jump shooting team, but also your point of attack defense is weak, you have to sit in more conservative ball screen coverages, meaning your big man has to sit further back towards the rim. Way too often they were caught up at the level, so when they got beat, there was no help at the rim, right? There was another play, like a horn set, where Pat Connaughton and Jay Crowder ran a switch that came right out of a dribble handoff. So basically, Pascal Siakam runs a dribble handoff with, I want to say it was Schroeder, but I can't remember exactly who it was. But Schroeder has the ball, and Pascal Siakam runs up and gets the ball and then runs another dribble handoff with Schroeder, right? On the play, as Schroeder comes off the dribble handoff, Jay Crowder jumps out and switches onto Schroeder on the left wing. So imagine in this case, you've got Bobby Portis who's guarding the screener, who is Jakob Poeltl in this case. He's sitting back at the semicircle, okay? Dennis Schroeder now has the ball up on the left wing, and Crowder has switched out onto him. So in this case, because Crowder switched, Pat Connaughton, who was guarding Schroeder, now has to switch onto Pascal Siakam. But he doesn't. They botched the switch. So as Crowder switches, Connaughton stays home for just a split second. That gives Jakob Poeltl the angle to turn and quickly flip the screen, the back screen, on Connaughton. Had Connaughton been paying attention and they switched properly, he would have been in position to navigate the screen better. But he wasn't. So Jakob Poeltl just lays the wood on him and hits him with a good solid screen. And then Schroeder throws the over-the-top pass to Siakam, who then catches and rips down the lane to the basket. So we have poor execution on the switch. But then there's the poor schematic approach because Bobby Portis, guarding a non-shooter in Poeltl, in an action with two other non-shooters in Siakam and Schroeder, he's way up at the foul line. So when Connaughton's trailing the play and Siakam rips through to the right, he's got an easy lane down to the rim. Whereas if Bobby Portis is running that conservative drop I'm talking about and sitting back, he can offer help on the Siakam drive, which then you can rotate out of. So again, like, it's not just the schematics. There's poor execution taking place as well. Right now, they're getting really poor perimeter defense play out of Malik Beasley, out of Damian Lillard, and out of Pat Connaughton in particular. But you see it elsewhere on the floor as well. Bobby Portis, one play, just got absolutely toasted on a straight-up one-on-one drive by Scotty Barnes. Just literally just faced him up. Portis is there, sitting in a stance, and he just goes right by him to the left and makes a left-handed layup off the glass. There was another play, Chris Middleton, guarding Pascal Siakam on the right wing. Some of it was bad technique because Pascal Siakam has not shot over 35% from three since 2020. And Middleton hard closes out to his shooting hand, and Siakam just rips through to the baseline. And so, like, again, Chris Middleton giving up a straight line drive to a non-shooter probably shouldn't happen, right? On the same play, Giannis got switched out on Dennis Schroeder. Jay Crowder was guarding Jakob Poeltl in the post. Jakob Poeltl posted up on him, not just to call for the ball, but to clear out the help side. Jay Crowder, instead of fighting around to the front so that he could offer help, he just stayed on the backside. So when Middleton got beat by Siakam towards the baseline, he just went right to the rim and laid it up, and there was no help because Jay Crowder didn't do his job by fronting the post to get into a position where he could help on the drive. So again, like, most of this is execution, I would argue. And like, I don't think you're going to see some sort of dramatic change in defensive scheme until guys just start doing a better job. It's been a consistent problem throughout the start of this season. There's the help and recover decisions have been poor. Like, there was another play where Grady Dick got a wide open three on the right wing because literally Malachi Flynn is running a ball screen on the left wing and he's kind of working downhill, but Brook Lopez has it under control, and Jay Crowder just sinks all the way into the elbow and gives up an easy kick-out three to Grady Dick. Grady Dick knocks down the three. You literally see Jay Crowder go, my bad. Again, that's not a schematic thing. That's just a guy doing a bad job. And then they cannot, like, for whatever reason, they just allowed the Toronto big post players to attack their small guards in the post without help. There were two clips I pulled in the late second quarter. You guys can find them in that thread, where Pat Connaughton and Malik Beasley got posted up by Scotty Barnes. And on both plays, you can see guys glued up off the ball on players like OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam. There was one in particular where Dame is glued up on Schroeder. Siakam has Jay Crowder glued up on him, and Scotty Barnes is posting up Malik Beasley. And it like goes on for like 5 seconds. And on the play, it would be so easy just for Crowder to double team, to get the ball out of Scottie Barnes' hands. The pass is going to go out to Pascal Siakam. Dame rotates over, which is going to lead to a swing back to Schroeder. And Malik Beasley closes out to Schroeder, who has one of the slowest releases in the league. And you take, all of a sudden, mismatch gone. Crowder's now on that post player. Siakam's on Dame, but you can scram out of that one too. Like, problem solved. No, they just let Malik Beasley on an island try to guard a massive Scottie Barnes who shot an easy hook shot over the top. And then they did it the very next possession against Pat Connaughton and did the exact same thing and left him on an island. So it's a failure at all levels. A failure at the point of attack, a failure in your ball screen coverages from your screen defenders who are just not doing a good job right now. Even Brook Lopez, just not doing a good job right now. Failure of your help and recover, and then last but not least, a failure to grab defensive rebounds. A consistent problem in that Toronto Raptors game was just guys standing around and watching while guys were crashing from the perimeter to get those rebounds. There was a play where Gary Trent Jr. grabbed an offensive rebound from his ass on the ground while multiple Bucks stood around and watched. And it led to a wide open three on the left wing that went in. So it's a problem. They're 14th in defensive rebounding percentage so far this year. They were second last year. Most of that is just effort. So again, schematically, there are a couple things. They got to do a better job of protecting their small guys in post mismatches. So for starters, don't switch if you can avoid it. Especially against teams like that are power teams that don't have good pull-up shooting. Just trail your smaller player over the top. Don't switch the screen, right? When you do end up in a transition cross match or you have to switch and there's a post mismatch, you have to double and rotate out of it. And then last but not least, your ball screen coverages have to be more conservative because your perimeter defense is not good. You're giving up too many straight line drives and guys are getting over the top of ball screens too easy. So you have to sit further back. Again, you got to identify the strengths and weaknesses of your defense. Your strength is your back line. This is not a team, I don't think, that is capable of becoming a top 5 defense. But they might be able to get into that 10 to 15 range if they get elite at protecting the rim and elite at grabbing contested rebounds on the defensive end. What's the giveaway there? You're going to have to probably give up some 3-point shots on the weak side, and that's going to stop you from being a truly elite defense. But at the very least, if you get that worked out and then you work out your offensive end, you can still be a very, very good playoff team, as we've seen with teams like Denver, right? So again, this is not crisis mode. It's just everyone on the roster's got to do a better job, and you've got to make some schematic adjustments for your specific group of personnel. On the offensive end, in the entire first half against Toronto, when they got their ass kicked, Dame and Giannis shared the floor for at least 12, 13 minutes. I'm not sure the exact number. But I watched every single possession. They ran 2 Dame Giannis pick and rolls in the entire first half. In the first one, because Toronto was not blitzing the ball screen. In the first one, OG Anunoby was guarding Giannis, and I believe Schroeder was on Dame. And on the play, Giannis comes up and doesn't set a screen. He slips out of it. It was almost like Dame and Giannis just assumed they were going to blitz. They don't blitz. OG stays home. Dennis chases. Dame throws the pocket pass as if it's a blitz in a slip, and it just gets easily stolen, and then they go the other way. And then they went back to it a few possessions later on the right wing, and Dame identified that it wasn't going to be a blitz, and Giannis set a better pick, and Dame came off free and clear and got a good look at a 24-foot pull-up three. He just missed it. Now, that's going to be an issue to start the season. Dame is out of shape, clearly. He's 7 for 22 on pull-up jump shots. Just 46% in effective field goal percentage weighted for threes, 3 for 11 on catch and shoot jump shots, and all of them are getting left short. He's leaving consistently pull-up jump shots short on the rim. That one I just told you about, that second Giannis Dame ball screen, barely grazed the front of the rim. So, he's also 53% at the rim, by the way. So, do I think Dame's going to consistently miss shots? No. I think that's a problem that's going to be solved in the long run just by Dame getting in shape and getting his legs underneath him, right? But make it easier on yourself. Why is it that the action that we were all terrified of, this Giannis Dame pick and roll that's capable of being so devastating, the one that I charted in a preseason game at something crazy like 1.5 per possession, why aren't you running that? Why isn't that a thing? If for no other reason other than to build the continuity and like kind of like experience with that action, because you're going to need to lean on it when you get down the road to the playoffs, right? But like at the end of the day, they're just not playing well enough. The two main guys, like Dame is out of shape, missing shots. Giannis is in this like weird funk right now where he's like in the half court trying to play bully ball too much, and the teams are just sitting on it. And like he's missing reads. There were several possessions in the Raptors game where he just barreled down the lane and either turned it over, got an offensive foul, or missed a shot while there were open shooters on the wing. And like, again, that's where getting him in an advantage situation, operating off of Dame's ball screens, is a great way to make him a more effective half-court player. He's settling for a ton of pull-up jump shots, not so much in the Toronto game, but it's just because they were getting their ass kicked. But in the season so far, he's taken 13 pull-up jump shots already. Like, why? Why is Giannis taking 13 pull-up jump shots already? Like, that just shouldn't be the case. So, like, at the end of the day, like, Dame and Giannis just got to play better. Like I said before, like, sometimes you're just playing shitty basketball, and right now your stars are playing shitty basketball. One thing I saw that was kind of optimistic, there was an action in the first half, in the first quarter, where Damian Lillard and Chris Middleton ran a pick and roll, or like a ball screen, and the Raptors switched it, got Dennis Schroeder onto Chris Middleton, threw the ball to Chris Middleton, and he took an easy left shoulder fade over Dame on the baseline, or over Dennis on the baseline for an easy bucket. Like, that's another way to kind of identify an entry point in the defense. Those 1-3 pick and rolls are almost always switches. It's a great way to get a small defender onto Chris or a bigger defender onto Dame, and then you can enter the offense from there. But flatly, the Stars have to play better. On the offensive end, the Stars have to play better. On the defensive end, everybody at every level, from the coaching staff down to the point of attack defense, down to the ball screen defense, down to the help defense, to the defensive rebounding, everybody's got to do a better job. Am I worried about the Bucks? No. This was definitely a worse start than I was expecting, though. But I said, expect the Bucks to struggle throughout the regular season, just because this is a team that's going to have to figure out how to win a different way. But make no mistake, if they do figure that out at some point before the end of the season, they're going to be a very dangerous playoff team.